Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December 4th meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Will the staff secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Abu-Markia?
Here.
Commissioner Short?
Here.
Commissioner Esparza?
Here.
Commissioner Bridge?
Here.
Commissioner Pollock-Cushing?
Here.
Commissioner Suchek?
Here.
Commissioner Borowiak?
Here.
Commissioner Alexander?
Here.
Okay, I will now ask the troop members from Troop 11 to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two. Thank you.
Okay, public comment period will be opening in a minute. Will the secretary please read the procedures for addressing the commission tonight?
Speakers have 3 minutes under public comment to speak on issues that are not listed on the agenda and are within the city's jurisdiction. The Brown Act does not permit any action or discussion on items not listed on the agenda.
Okay, so at this point, do any members of the viewing audience have anything they would like to address the commission about? Okay, on that note, I will close public comments. And next, we're gonna have a switch of item number 6.1 and 6.2, just so you know, coming up. But first, we have approval of the minutes from November 6, 2023. Do we have a motion to approve? All in favor?
Move. Second.
Okay. Okay, so motion passes.
Make the motion. You're welcome.
So we have a motion and a first, now we have to take the vote.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
We have to state on the record any opposed.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, that passes. Okay, next we are going to move on to requests and presentations. And like I said, we're switching item 6.2 and putting that before 6.1. So the next 6.2 and 6.1 are informational items only. And it's going to be the recognition of the Youth Commissioner by Jill Geller.
Hi, Omri. Well, on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Commission, the City of Roseville, Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Department, we'd like this opportunity to thank Omri Abu-Markia for his service as our Parks and Rec Commissioner representing Roseville's youth. Omri began his term in January 2023, and we've been so privileged to have him as a youth commissioner this year. He's been engaged and involved in our meetings. He's attended events outside of our meetings. He's been exactly what we would hope for in a youth commissioner. During his term, Omri was involved in the review and approval of the plan for renovations to Weber Park. He served on the commission in a year that we dedicated 3 new parks: Four Corners Park, Audrey Husking Park, and Apollo Dog Park. We broke ground at the soccer complex, and at the dedication of the new Royer Playground, we will always remember the beautiful poem he wrote and recited. Omri is truly dedicated to improving the quality of Roseville's parks, facilities, and programs and services. His involvement provided a much-needed youth perspective to the Commission's decision-making and discussion process, which makes for a more well-rounded and successful park system. Omri's bright, well-spoken, and driven, and I have no doubt he'll be successful in all of his future endeavors. So on behalf of Roseville Parks, Recreation, and Libraries, please accept our sincere thanks for your service this year, Omri, and we're going to present you with this plaque that says, "In appreciation of your dedicated service to the City of Roseville Parks and Recreation Commission, 2023. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. If you want to say a couple words, you can.
I just want to say I'm really grateful to have had the opportunity to serve this year on the Parks and Recreation Commission. I want to say thank you to Jill, Mai, and
all the and the rest of the commission for making this year so memorable and, educational and informative. So thank you.
Okay, does anybody in the viewing audience have anything to add? Okay, we'll close public comment. I'm going to bring it back to the commission now to see if anybody has some words to say to our departing youth commissioner who you added so much to our commission, and I hope that we added a lot to your growth and future, and you're going to be successful wherever you go. So hope you take this experience as a starting point and just keep going.
Thank you.
Amre, thank you for your service and best of luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Okay, that it? All right. Next, we have item 6.2, and that is the introduction of our new youth commissioner by you, Christina.
Thank you. Thank you. On Tuesday, November 28th, we interviewed 7 applicants for the Parks and Recreation Commission as well as the Library Board. It was a joint interview process, and Nick Alexander represented the Parks and Recreation Commission. We interviewed 3 specific to the Parks and Recreation Commission, and we have selected an applicant. She currently serves on the Library Board. Her name is Sophia Moreno. Ms. Moreno is an active teen in her community. She currently serves on our city's Roseville Library Board. Some of her accomplishments include taking a Harvard University pre-college summer program, maintaining a 4.4 GPA with all AP classes at West Park High School, while being a youth member at St. Clair Catholic Church Social Concerns Group, a volunteer at Acres of Hope Shelter, a council member at West Park High School's Athletic Leadership Council, president of West Park's UNICEF Club, captain of the high school tennis team, a track and field athlete, and a pianist, just to name a few things. At this time, we request that the commissioners approve the appointment of Sophia Moreno to serve as the Parks and Recreation Youth Commissioner for the 2024 term.
If I might add, all that while maintaining a 4.4 GPA.
I'd like to add something else too. She was on the panel that we interviewed last year, and definitely on our short list for which would have been the 2023 Youth Commissioner. I think she opted to go to the Library Board last year, which was fine. We landed with Amre, so that was a great thing. But I was really impressed with her last year, so it's great to see that she returned and came back with joining us this year.
Okay, I think we look forward to meeting her, speaking on behalf of the panel. Does anybody, if I open public comment, anybody have anything to add? I'll close public comment. Next, we have item. Oh, it's a motion. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve? So all in favor?
I'll make a motion to appoint Sophia Moreno to the Parks and Rec Commission.
Do we have a second? Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Opposed?
Oh, any opposed? Holiday mode. Okay, then motion passes, and we will look forward to having our new youth commissioner attend the January meeting. Okay, next is item 6.3, the 2023 Open Space Annual Report by Jana Rapetti and Russell Soares.
Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Russell Soares. I'm a parks supervisor. I oversee the open space team. This is Jana Rapetti. She's my natural resource specialist. She drafted this report. She actually made a change. Usually our report is all the VRS we did with a one-page explanation. So she's taken the time to make a very comprehensive report that we're really excited to share with you guys today. So this year was the first year we had a dedicated creek maintenance program. Leading up to this year, open space looked completely different. In the past, we operated primarily in a seasonally staff-driven model. Depending on who you talk to, 2007, 2009 was the last time that we had a dedicated creek maintenance team. So it's been a while. With that model came many challenges, most of which was the condition of our creek system. Luckily, a couple of years ago, there was a push to move to a full-time model, and this year we finally have formed the team to bring us into the future. So 2023 was about building a team and navigating many unique situations to find out what would work best for us and get us back to our responsibilities. So overall, our biggest accomplishment in 2023 was staffing. The team you see there is all our full-time staff with one seasonal. Moving from a seasonal-driven model to a full-time staffing model was paramount in the success we've seen over the past year. Only recently, in September, did we complete our team, yet we made more progress in our creeks, open space, bike trails, and unsheltered systems than in the recent past. We're governed, these are our governing documents. Open space is guided by a few governing documents. We follow local, state, and federal regulations. Under our routine maintenance agreement with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, we're able to submit a verification request form, what we call a VRF, for maintenance activities. We receive an annual report from our contracted biologist, which also informs our management activities. So that's how we got our program. So what do we do? What do we oversee? We oversee over 4,000 acres of open space land, over 35 miles of bike trails, over 78 miles of creeks. We also oversee the unsheltered camp cleanup activities in partnership with the Roseville PD Social Services Unit. They help us out in that effort.
I'll share a little bit about our preserves and open space. I wanted to start by talking about vernal pools. Vernal pools are seasonal wetlands. They're shallow depressions with hard pan beneath, which allow for seasonal pools, rich in biodiversity. They provide habitat for rare plants and animals and are increasingly threatened ecosystems. So we work hard in Roseville to protect these ecosystems. There's a map there of the vernal pools, and then, sorry if we could go back one. Map of the vernal pools in blue and green, and then there's an aerial shot of what those vernal pools look like overhead. I believe that's at Mahaney. Our preserves and open space are highlighted in yellow and orange on the map on the left. Yellow are our open space areas, and then in orange are our preserves. They're a little hard to differentiate there, but the management practices are essentially the same, although the funding varies. Many of these open space areas are grazed by goat herds. We have a picture of some goats there below for vegetation control. Our goats are here typically April through November each year. And many residents are familiar with our goats and our goat tracker map on our city website. In the past, we've had 3 or 4 goat herds annually, but the last couple years, we've had anywhere from 5 to 6 herds each year, so more herds, and each herd can have between 300 and 800 goats per herd, so it's a lot of goats that we move throughout the city. Looking forward, due to growth and increased costs, we are working on developing a grazing mowing rotation. So you may see that happening in the future where we may rotate. Goats may not graze the typical open space each year. It may be more of a rotation, so that may be coming. The map on the right there shows our fire breaks. They're a little bit hard to see because they're narrow, but they're blue, red, or green. The red fire breaks, just as an FYI, if there's a fire break behind a residence, those are to be completed by July 1st. That's a question we get a lot, so those are always done by July 1st. So those are 2 contracts that we oversee related to our preserves and open space. The map there with the little green areas, we're calling those miscellaneous areas right now. These are areas that we've either become aware of over the last year, or they are unplanned areas or areas that have slipped through the cracks in some way. So open space is absorbing some previously contracted work and finding and documenting these areas to be completed in-house. So that includes spraying, weed eating, and/or mowing. We're working on pre-emergent treatments right now. We have a new sprayer in our side-by-side. We have a Polaris side-by-side, and we have a sprayer that fits inside the back now, so we can run 2 spray units simultaneously during pre-emergent for optimal timing, so we can cover more ground at peak time. Our fall treatments were very successful, although I will say our spring treatments were varied in success, I think because of the amount of rain that we got, just unprecedented. And we're currently wrapping up our spring 23 treatment, or our fall 2023 treatments. You'll notice the acres are increasing on that table there. That is because we're in the process of regaining control on some of our areas. Eventually, we'll see a reduction there, but right now, we're still gaining ground, returning to responsibilities that we haven't been able to give attention to in past years.
So our bike trail system, the 35 miles that we, and counting, that we take care of, we continue to acquire new trails as the city expands. Our responsibilities include everything from changing garbage cans, doggy pots, making sure that it's blown off so that it's safe for rollerbladers, skateboarders, bikes, everything, and to keep the vegetation back off of it. Currently, we're returning the pre-emergent spraying, as Janet was just speaking to. For the past couple years, we hadn't accomplished that because we had some good residual in there and it wasn't taking over, and all of a sudden that water hit and all the shrubs and vegetation came onto the bike trail. So it's been a big effort to kind of regain control of that and push it back out. We had one of our staff members, Richard Herrera, conduct a sign survey at the beginning of the year. All the signs along the trails, we're going to be reinstalling all of them. We're currently in process of getting those signs from our Public Works Department, so that'll be happening in the next few months. In the coming year, we plan to reestablish a high level of maintenance that provides the exceptional experiences that Roseville is known for, with the heavy pruning. One of the biggest things that's going to help us this year, we recently acquired a tow-behind blower. Currently, how we're doing is we have backpack blowers, and our staff is having to walk all 35 miles, which it takes a lot of time, and especially right now with the leaves. You go one day, the next day the leaves are there, we don't return back for a couple weeks. So this piece of equipment is going to save us to where we're blowing off heavy once a month and return those bike trails to what they're known for, and keep them clean and safe. And in a little bit here, we'll discuss something else that we're instituting is a 3-route system. We're actually putting an actual system in place where we have 3 separate routes across the city with 3 different crews. They're going to hit them 3 different days. So that's going to expand highly in the future. In connection with trails, something that we're currently working on is the city's natural trail system. We've identified 3 areas across the city that the trails already exist. What we're trying to accomplish here is to bring our natural trails that may be known locally to the whole city and advertise them that, hey, these are trails that you can go and walk. And so we've provided some maps. Currently, we're putting the entrance signs to all the entrances. The next phase will be putting some informative signage out there, as well as some directing, tell you where you're going on the path. The thinking behind that is, especially in like the Mahaney area, if you can see on the picture, there's many trails that have been naturally created. We want people to enjoy the natural areas, but we would like them to go on dedicated trails to not have as large of an impact on the environment. So there'll be a several phase, try to get people on the paths, and then we'll start tilling the land and trying to recoup that and get that land back to how it's supposed to be. And that's going to be a pretty extensive process. So yeah, mainly bringing awareness to the availability to all residents across the city, because all the people that live locally kind of know about them. But if I could go on the west side of town and go walk a nice nature trail, it's something that we're really working towards.
This map here highlights our creeks in Roseville. So we have 78 miles of creeks and riparian areas. The spots in red are areas that we targeted this year during 2023. Our work period in creeks is April 1st through October 15th. That's dictated by our routine maintenance agreement through the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Excuse me. Anytime we do creek maintenance, we are required to submit a verification request form to CDFW for approval prior to work. That also includes some biological monitoring, so nesting bird surveys. We contract with a biologist who conducts those surveys in the area we intend to work in prior to commencing work. Our goals this year were mainly removal of debris and obstructions, including fallen trees and beaver dams. And secondary to that was vegetation management and treatment of invasive species. The biggest challenge we faced this year was an accumulation of material. As Russell mentioned, we did not have a dedicated creek crew for some time, and so even our access had become overgrown with vegetation, and the number of obstructions has also accumulated just over the years. And then, of course, this winter with our rains and wind, as you know, lots of downed trees. As an example, the orange star at the north side of the map there, there's a little 3-mile stretch on either side of that star, and we counted 72 obstructions in that 3-mile stretch, including 6 beaver dams. So extrapolate that to our 78-mile creek system, and you have a taste of what we're up against. The photo on the right is of a downed tree in North Pleasant Grove Creek. That is one of those 72 obstructions. So when we say obstruction, we might be talking about something small and manageable, but a lot of times we're talking about something like that. So that particular tree is an estimated 60 inches diameter at breast height. You can see the scale. That's Mike, one of our workers there, standing next to it. That particular tree is now removed, but we got to only 10 of those 72 obstructions. We ended our season in North Pleasant Grove Creek, and so that was all we could get to before the end of our creek season. We did perform creek walks prior to our creek season in the fall. Of course, much of that changed with our winter storms, so that presented a bit of a challenge because what we had inventoried was different by the time we went in April. We also completed work under 6 verification request forms approved by CDFW, and we worked in Miners Ravine, Linda Creek, Kirby Creek, Antelope Creek, and parts of North Pleasant Grove Creek. This slide has a couple tables, so it's just a comparison from what we did in fall of 2022 to this year. So you can see that the number of obstructions and invasive species treated, attention to beavers, all of that was significantly increased this year. We hope to continue that effort in the coming years. In total this year, we removed 71 obstructions, which included downed trees and beaver dams. We also performed foliar treatments of approximately 11 acres of invasive species in the riparian areas. We did use an aquatic-approved herbicide in those areas, and we hope to continue with that. Again, that sprayer in the side-by-side has allowed us to access infestations that we haven't been able to get to before. The picture on the left there is kind of highlighting the density of vegetation. You can see what we're up against just accessing our creeks. The picture on the right is a picture of a beaver dam breach. We had several requests going into the 2023 season from Placer County to help with dams that were causing access issues for their contractors or faulty readings on gauges. We also had multiple concerns from residents about creeks. And I found a document from my predecessor recently that mentioned that he rarely received creek concerns from residents. And that made me chuckle because that has not at all been our experience. And I think just we're at that point where the accumulation is now noticeable to our residents, and they're concerned as well. So we're getting a lot of calls like that. We do have, beavers. The state beaver policy changed this year, so it's a little more limiting. We did have a meeting in person with CDFW as well as the county trapper. We visited 5 areas of concern, and that did result in more beaver takes from CDFW this year, so that was a success. We continue to work with them on areas of concern regarding beaver damage. We do have winter plans to wrap trees to protect them from beaver damage in areas of concern. We're continuing to work with the county trapper and also continuing to prioritize for the coming years with the city floodplain manager. So this is going to be years in the making, restoring our creeks to what they once were, but we did have a successful start to our new creek program. That slide is also mine, sorry. So this is just highlighting a few special projects that we did. The picture on the left there was in Miners Ravine. This was in conjunction with the city floodplain manager, but there was some erosion concern related to overgrowth of vegetation on some sandbars, so we cleared the sandbars in Miners Ravine. There's a picture of a trail abration sign. Many of you may have heard about that event. It presented some challenges, but overall was a success, and we will continue with trail abration this coming year. We did get to have a booth at a job fair at Mahaney, and there's our Christmas tree before it was decorated. That was the day we put it up, so we got to help the urban forestry team install the tree. And then the next slide, we have a picture of this is Next Home Realty that wanted to do a volunteer event. So they did a trash sweep for us between North Pleasant Grove Creek and Creekview Bike Trail. So that was awesome. And then Fitiment House cleanup on the left there. Open Space and Urban Forestry worked together to remove some invasive species prior to Roseville Historical Society volunteer group coming in and doing some more cleanup efforts there.
So when it comes to unsheltered, the reason that the numbers looked like the way they did in 2022 is because primarily all our focus went towards unsheltered issue. We were bringing in new staff, we had some promotions, a lot of good things going on, but staffing-wise, we didn't have the staff we needed, and unsheltered was taking a lot of our time. So this year, being able to get to where we're able to break it back up and get into both areas is very important. Jared Malden is my senior worker. He spearheads the unsheltered program. We work in coordination with the Roseville PD Special Social Services Unit. They offer the people out there with services and try to get them help if they need it. And then we go through and abate whatever's left over if they leave their stuff behind or if there's trash there that we need to clean up. Sometimes we just clean up the camps for them so that we can keep the open space clean. In 2022, we were used almost exclusively for unsheltered cleanups. It had its pros and its cons. On one hand, we began utilizing it exclusively for camps meant that other areas of open space programs suffered. That's kind of what I stated. It was tough because we had high success in here. We went from over 100 camps. This map was a little bit different last year. We've moved to a new version of field maps before our priority level system. When I took over, the map was covered with dots. It was very intimidating. I didn't know how to handle it. My team, the whole first couple months was coming together and trying to, okay, how are we going to combat this? What is our plan? How are we going to come in? We took it from over 100 dots to less than 10. And that's where we maintain it currently, is we keep it single digits. And that's a huge collaborative effort through us and the police and Corey Rommelfinger as well, who's the, I'm not sure if it's his code enforcement. So it's been a huge program together. In 2022, we cleaned 390 camps and 143 tons of debris. This year, we're on pace for 340 and 80 tons. The reduction in numbers there is a great thing for us because we're getting to these camps before they become well established. My first season coming in, we used to have these huge camps behind the Sutter where we remove between 30 and 35 tons a year. Every September, we'd go out there, 30, 35 tons, and we'd just take it all out. We worked with the Roseville PD to get them an access road that went with the laws, with what we have that fits, and gave them an access road so they could drive it. They patrolled it. That collaborative effort eliminated those camps. So now they're much smaller. We didn't do one this year at all. We didn't have to do a large cleanup this year. So that's been a huge success for us. The tiered system, I'm sure you guys have all been shown that. If not, I just wanted to go over it briefly. We currently have a tiered system that the police use to judge what these camps are. A A tier 1 is subject to immediate cleanup and removal. That's if someone's life's in danger, if they're in the floodway, if they're actively breaking the law. So that those camps are used. It's very rare we use a level 1. Level 2, which is a high priority, is where we focus, which is a coordinated removal, outreach, relocation focus, minimum of 48-hour notice. That's where we go in. Social service unit is trying to provide services, find out what we can do to help. And then once we get them secured to what they're going, then we go in and then clean up and try to get the area back to how it was. Level 3 is a no immediate removal needed, not a public safety concern. So we come across something, they're legally there, they're not breaking any laws, there's no contraband or anything like that. Those are typically left alone. And then level 4 is what is a debris pile. It's basically, there's a pile of trash, we don't know what it is. We still mark them most of the time, and then we just put that on, and we kind of get those as we can. With the system, with the 48-hour notice, our current system is we mark on Tuesdays, we clean on Thursdays. So Thursdays is our unsheltered day that's dedicated 100% to that issue. With the level 1s, we've had a couple. Those have kind of worked back in now where we during the week, whenever they come up, we have it's immediate response. We drop what we're having to do and go over there. Some of the systems we'll talk about here in a second are going to help alleviate that from our crew. The other thing is we currently are, we did a lot to put in it's a private property. Yeah, it's like a contract. We go on private property, like commercial properties or abandoned parking lots. The city now has the ability to go in there and charge people back if they're willing, and we can now work on private property to help keep Roseville beautiful. So it's worked to our advantage already once. So it's something that we don't use all the time, but it's a good thing that's got put in place.
So all of the progress over the last year has been aimed at building sustainability, some sort of a foundation that's going to propel us into the future. And our staff and investing in our staff is definitely part of that. So we do weekly tailgate trainings. We did a vernal pool tour with our biologists this summer, which was really fascinating. Annually, we do pesticide applicator and in-series training. Bloodborne pathogen training is required for us due to our unsheltered camp cleanups. We have several staff with Class A certifications and qualified applicator certifications. And this year, our lead worker, Jared, became a certified backhoe operator trainer. So that was a success. Also, contributing toward our sustainable program, we are working on a manual. This document exists, but we continue to add to it. It's a collaborative team effort, so it's a living, breathing document. Each team member contributes to this, and it helps us execute the open space program on the ground. This is an actual how-to document, and the idea is that someone who doesn't have prior knowledge could take the document and successfully run an open space program. It can also be pieced out, and so we talked about our preserves and open space, our creeks, our vegetation management, and our bike trails, as well as our unsheltered program. So each section of that manual can go with each part of the program. We're going to talk pretty soon here about some rotations, some task force rotations. So this is going to be important when that comes into play because as our staff rotate, they'll have the manual with them as they approach creeks or trails or what have you. This is not very visually stimulating, but we do have in-house forms for time tracking, work orders and checklists, things that are just super user-friendly that I then can track our data and collect our data. So these are already in place and being used and informing our decisions.
These are also documents that Jana created when she came to the city. So they didn't exist prior. These have everything that you're seeing has been created in the past 12 months. So our equipment, we're kind of limited by the equipment we have. Some of those pictures you've seen, our backhoe, it's a great piece of equipment, but it can be a brute sometimes. And when we work in a natural environment, our job is to protect that environment, make sure that we're being good stewards of the land. So you get caught in a spot where I need to get in there and make sure that our floodplain's good. I got a big tree, I got to get out. Well, how do I best do that? So currently we do the best we can with the backhoe, and it doesn't do the worst job, but we're currently trying to get a a different piece of equipment that's going to be much more precision and way better for what we do. So that's something that's in the works that's really going to help us. The next slide here, this is where we're going. We've mentioned rotations a couple times, and there's a lot of information here that you don't need to know it all, but the left side is kind of an economic calendar, not economic, but a calendar of what we do. The right side is I'm trying to put a rotation of our employees in. What's happened with the full-time employees that we've been given, now that we have 6 in total, 8 if you count my lead worker, my natural resource specialist, the plan is to split into 2 teams. We're going to have, the teams will be 3 full-timers and 2 seasonals per team. One team is going to be dedicated to bike trails and unsheltered, so that when we get an unsheltered call or we need to respond quicker, we can get right to it. The thinking behind that is because when we go out and we set up in the open space, we bring our trucks out there and the backhoe, because currently we don't have a trailer backhoe, we drive the backhoe. It's hours to set up before we can pull out. So when we get a call and we have to respond because of policy, it's really difficult. We have to drop, we lose tons of efficiency. With this plan, we're going to have a dedicated team that does not leave creeks for the entire point. We have 5 people that are dedicated, they don't leave creeks. And we're going to make massive gains just with that little team there. So we're super excited about this rotation. The other thing that's built in is one of my concerns, one of our concerns for our team, is the burnout that you can get from the unsheltered camps. It's very tough work. It's hard. It's hard emotionally to deal with the people, and because they have problems too, and you hear a lot of stories that are very hard to hear. The cleanup is tough. So with this, it's a built-in break of 3 months a year for each team, so they can get that relaxation. Another good thing that Jana brought up that I really like what she's doing here, because we always talk about leadership and trying to make sure that all our staff knows every position so that they're well educated. She's having a point person per, so if you have bike trails, there's a point person for bike trails, point person for creeks, point person for unsheltered. What that's going to do is give each person a chance at leadership, and to, they're not running the program, but they're that communication point. They understand how to communicate. They'll get better at writing emails. They're going to get more informed. So it's going to make sure that the staff is future built in the future, and that when tough things come, we're ready for it. So we're super excited about it. Everything is built towards, this is all going to start April 1st. That's the first date that we're actually going to bring seasonals in and we start. So we're really excited for it. Hopefully that comes across well. The next slide here is just a real quick is what we're thinking for the bike trail system. This is kind of what we've developed for routes. We'll have 3 separate routes across the city. They'll 3 days a week. It'll be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We will attend to the bike trails, what that's going to do. Currently, right now, we're only able to get there Mondays and Fridays. So Mondays and Fridays, 2 days a week, full cans, much more work. You have to stop more often. Truck's heavier. You got to make dumps. So being able to go 3 days a week, with Thursday being unsheltered, it's going to keep the cans low, more efficient. The routes will be much quicker. They'll be able to go through the route in about 2 hours, get back, and then they collaborate, hit a section of bike trail that they can prune, maintenance, clean, whatever they need to. And then also have that, there's probably a 2-person team with a dump bed truck that will always be ready for any tier 1 that comes up or any other small unsheltered issues. And it doesn't affect that team as much as it would the creek team. So we're super excited about that as well. All that to say, everything that we're building has been about teamwork. Investing time and attention into the team is how we've been successful and is what will drive our success into the future. The one thing that we've tried to really push to our team is that close-knit and just really trying to develop a team, because the better team that we have, the more that we're going to be able to accomplish. These pictures are examples of the small things that make teams go, from knowing each other's families to creating fun team-building ideas such as our tonometer. We keep track of the tons and debris. That's that thermometer. We call it a tonometer. We keep track of the tons of debris that we pick up. And then when we hit 50, there's a bell there that Jana brought in, and they ring the bell, and it's super loud. And it's a small thing, but it's huge because it develops that camaraderie of building an actual team. Jana also developed, it was a golden ticket. We hide them in areas where people are supposed to be checking cans, whatever, and just see if people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So when they find it, they get, I take them out to lunch, or we have a couple different things we do for them. But it was it's just a small detail that gets people to understand that they are a part of something, that they do belong to a team. Understand each other's families, that's Richard up there. He just had his kid a couple months ago, 2 months ago.
Almost a year ago, actually.
Oh, he just got back, yeah. And then, knowing people's pets and stuff like that. That's a picture there. That's the picture there is a couple of our staff. Colleen's actually moved on. She got promoted because she did so well, which is great. That's another great thing about our team is, like, we've had a couple people get promoted or have to move, and they still have great relationships with other teams. So building that's been highly important to us. And then the last thing, there's a little picture of the cake there. It's got a backhoe on it. One of our staff, we bought that cake for Jared on his birthday. But one of our staff was like, Jared's the backhoe guy. Let's put a backhoe and get it stuck, because he had just got it stuck in the mud. So it was it's those team building things that mean the most, and that's why people want to come to work, to know that they're a part of something, and that they want to keep learning, to know that they got something going into the future. So, yeah, these are I just wrote a note here that these are the things that keep our team motivated and wanting to be a part of what we are building. So, we talk a lot about being the foundation currently, because there's a lot of ground that was laid before we got here. But because of the change and the way things were done with all seasonal staff, we weren't able to do the things we wanted. And now making those changes, we're really at a ground level of something that we're just really, it's a rocket ship about to take off, and we're super excited about it. With that, I thank you for having us and listening to our thing. And with that, I'll take any questions, or if anybody has any comments.
Yeah, I guess I'll start out if that's okay. First of all, I just want to say thank you. I think that when we look at our open space, when we see it looking natural and open, that means you're doing your job, but it doesn't, it's hard to quantify what went in to make it look that way. So it's only when we notice that there's a lot of debris or something's wrong that it draws to our attention. So when we see an open space and it's clean and natural looking, that means you guys are doing a great job. So appreciate you for that. The other part is, I'm just kind of curious how it works with our neighboring cities that the creeks flow from or to. Do they have as big of a committee as a team that you have, and is there a lot of coordination between various cities on those bordering jurisdictions?
That's something we need to explore. There's not too much of that. We do a much better job of attaining to the laws than both of our neighboring, both on the south and the north. Rockland, for example, doesn't have the same type of system we do, which creates problems for us, because if they're not cleaning their invasive stuff, well, all those invasives are just washing down into ours. So we try to just keep our house clean, and in the future, that's one of those things that as we get our system and we're really working, try to bring that to other areas and maybe show them that's kind of what the manual is to give it to people that maybe, because when I've called a few cities when I first came in, Folsom was one of them, and kind of asked some questions about how they maintain their system. What success do they have? What are the best ways to kind of go about things? You find out that everybody has their own way of doing things, because a lot of the laws and stuff are pretty gray. Our RMA, for example, was when it was adopted, it says that the land is to remain in this condition as the writing of this document. There's no pictures of what that looks like. So, one of our first things we were working on, we really want to. We actually had a development today. I was out with my boss, Eric, and we were talking to the floodplain manager and discussing something we discussed in the past about getting some drone footage of our creek system, so we know where we're at. To tell stories like this, to show people, would be vital for us, because show where it's at and then wait 3 years and be like, okay, now where we're at.
Right.
And instead of having because in February we're going to be, each staff will go out and we're going to walk all 78 miles of creek, because we have to see the thing. We'll split the team up. If I could do that with a drone, instead of walking it, it would make it much, much faster and much more efficient.
Well, I would think that wouldn't be very expensive either to accomplish, getting a drone and getting that. It seems like an easy thing to do. I could be wrong, but
I don't think it would be either. I think there's a few small bumps that we'd have to think, but nothing that would stop it. We're going to have to discuss, is there a certification involved? I know there's a license that you have to have, and then bringing in the union to make sure if that's some training that we have to have through the union is going to have to be approved or adopted as a cert. But those are all very small things, and other departments are already exploring it too. So I think a lot of people are going to start going that way. I believe our electric department already owns several drones. So it's a task force. The vegetation management also is our staff, Randy Swanson. She does all our goats and our vegetation management. She has to walk all the contractor and verify whether that's something else that we didn't put in there. This is one of the first years we actually walked behind and verified all the contract work, and there was a lot of mistakes 2 years ago, and then this year it was a lot cleaned up because they understood that we were going to walk behind you and verify you. So Randy did an amazing job with that. But even that, I think of how much walking she had to do and the days lost where she could jump in a truck, hit a drone around, and it'd probably take 30 minutes instead of 4 hours. So something that we're looking at in the future would be exciting.
You mentioned that as you regain more acres, who has that acreage before? If we are regaining it, did we have it before and now we need to? I guess Commissioner Alexander owns all the,
So
Sierra Vista specific plan. We would dedicate that land once the 404 permit with the Corps has cleared its monitoring period.
yeah, so this year we took a couple pieces of land from F83, F84. We took the developers. They turned it over to us. It was about 60 acres. So each year we take a little bit more. In total, I think we took over 400 this year. So as Sierra Vista grows, there's a large portion there that we'll be taking as well.
Soon.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great report, and thanks for all you do to keep the our natural spaces looking good. Everyone loves the goats. Are there any? What are the pros and cons of using the goats? Because I just watch. It seems like it kind of self-fertilizes new. And at least in this open space near me, it seems like there's at least different vegetation than what was there in the previous years. So, what are the pros and cons of using the goats versus other methods?
There's a lot of biological benefits. That's what Volmar is actually the one that kind of helped us introduce it, because the goats, exactly what you say, they recycle, they put that nutrient back into the ground. One thing we did learn on our vernal pools tour was all the grasses we have are all invasive. None of them, they were all brought over from Europe. None of these grasses are native. So the more they eat, the more you try to get some natural grasses coming back to keep that stuff down. So yeah, they provide a good biological thing. As long as with some of the areas, especially on the east side of town, they help with our fire breaks. They naturally go in there and do the fire breaks across the
Right.
city. So
And then I didn't even know we had beavers, but I had beavers. But a new term was what's a beaver take? Is that the trapper removes the beaver and
Yeah, that's just the term used for the trapper. When he traps a beaver, it's called a take.
okay, thank you.
I also love the goats. I don't know why we all love the goats, but we all love the
They're
goats.
adorable.
I know. So thank you. Love it, when they're out by my house walking the dog and the shepherd dog comes up. Anyway, I had a couple of other questions. I really appreciate the natural trail signage. I think that it's great that I won't say encourage, but we don't discourage our residents from using that open space. But at the same time, it is important that we do so responsibly. And I think leave no trace is the perfect way to say that. So I'm really appreciate that that's the way that we've kind of looked to handle that. I did think, though, and maybe you can help me out and remind me, isn't the Mahaney Trail going to become a formalized trail? Isn't that part of our plans?
So there's a plan for a bike trail currently. I won't speak to a lot of it because there's a lot that's ongoing. I heard there was a delay. We did coordinate with alternative transportation to kind of show them what we were thinking. Is this going to interfere with what you were thinking? And so we have worked through that. That's why that one is very simple. It's a single trail through and kind of just a few times. The current plan that I know of, and that could change due to delays, is to have the bike trail on the northern side near Pleasant Grove, which wouldn't interfere with our plans.
Okay. I think that was one of the last things I saw when I was over on the Transportation Commission last year. So, and then on the creeks and riparian areas, you talked about 10 out of the 72 obstructions. How do you choose? Is it a kind of a ranking system that when you do those walks that these are the 10 highest priority ones, and hopefully next year that same area won't have the level of obstruction, so we can do other areas, or what is the decision making process?
Go ahead.
I will definitely let Russell chime in on that, but I will say for this year, we knew where there were some big problems, and we just kind of went gangbusters on those. We also know historically where there have been flood issues, and so those kind of became a priority. And I think we're hoping to have a little more strategic prioritization for our work in the coming years, coordinating with the city floodplain manager. But yeah, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, so when I came in 2 years ago, there was a lot of concerns that I had about specifics. I'm more of a nuts and bolts black and white guy. I want to kind of know exactly what things are, and open space is very much not that way. So I had to reach and use a lot of relationships, try to pick people's brain who had done it previously, like, how do you make the decisions? How do you decide, what areas are most important? So we have developed a better relationship with our floodplain manager to kind of understand how he sees the city, because that is the largest threats we're going to have the city is going to come from, he'll know. So the first year, he kind of pointed out, hey, Linda Creek and Dry Creek, those are close to the homes, kind of just spent some time there, so we did. We're expanding that. We've been meeting with Brian Walker very recently, and this next year, we're going to, because of we have a GIS system that now in place, we're going to be able to track the blocks a lot better. So once we have that information, we're going to send that to Brian Walker and kind of let him pick, hey, okay, well, these four are kind of my large concern. We'll start there, and then we'll work out from that point. So having that data from the floodplain manager would be very helpful to us, because it is very hard. What beaver dam is the worst? Which one do you take? Which homes are? It is. There's no guidebook to it right now. That's kind of what the manual is as well, to create that.
Which, and thank you, because that's my last comment, was I really appreciate the obvious, the theme that I saw throughout your whole presentation was an obvious commitment to what is the job that we're trying to do and how can we best accomplish that? Not with complete disregard to what's been done in the past, but not letting that hold you back as far as how can it be done better, faster, more efficiently. So just wanted to call that out and praise you for it. Thank you.
Um,
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, with that, is there ever a chance to catch up? Because that's approximately only less than 10% that you were able to conquer in 1 year. So, and then next year there might be another 10%. So is there ever, do you foresee a year where you're like on top of it, like you're gonna get all those obstructions?
One of the first meetings we sat down when Jana got brought in, was we really tried to come up with that kind of plan. We had such a small sample size. Jana put together, we had these few projects of how long it took in this amount of area. So we tried to extrapolate that out of what it would take with our current staff, maybe the dream staff that we dream, and to get things to a routine maintenance. What we came up with, that tiny bit of data, which I would tell you is too small of a sample size. This time next year, the data we'll have will be invaluable. It'll be extremely important to us. But with that data, it was 9-ish years before we'd be to a routine maintenance. And there's a lot that went into that, how we judge the segments, because our riparian area is broken up by segments, and there's 618 segments throughout the city. So we took it, judging, well, probably 30% is in rough condition, 40% was in medium condition, and was that 30 more percent was in good or maintenance level. So we kind of messed with those numbers to see how we thought it was, and it's just tough because we were guessing, because we both had just got here and we're trying to make the best of it to look forward. I do know that Public Works is looking at something right now about trying to get back to a baseline, because if you want to get back to a baseline with the current condition, there's only one way to do it, and you're going to have to contract it out. It's going to be a very, very large program. But if you want to extend that out 36 months, 48 months, that's something we can do. I tend to, like I said, not want to speak on it too much, because I just want to see what my team can do that's dedicated to this, because we haven't had it in almost 2 decades. And I think we're going to make a bigger dent than we think, but this time next year we'll have a much more, a better idea of where we're at.
But you're exactly right, because while
gonna
you're
roll
trying
over,
to gain
yeah.
ground, things are still accumulating, right? We have trees coming down each winter, vegetation continues to grow. When I first started and I was working on those numbers that Russell was talking about, I was trying to think, what is a good way to explain vegetation, And I was thinking, if this light bulb burns out, the job to replace that light bulb is the same today as it would be 6 months from now. It's just changing a light bulb. But open space work is not at all like that. So the job today is, the job to treat invasive species while they're this small is totally different. If I wait 6 months or 6 years, I've got an infestation that's a completely different monster, So these trees are huge. If we're talking about a small tree, maybe it's a one-person job, but, the tree like the one we saw in the photo is a whole crew and equipment. And so it just grows exponentially, if you will. So you're exactly right. If you're gaining ground, but you're still losing it on the other side. So, yeah.
Interesting.
That's why that timeline of like 13 to 14 years is very important, because the maintenance isn't going through with we call it Cobra blade. It's a disc that we just kind of knock stuff down. That kind of maintenance is not possible anymore. We have trees out there that are 12 dBH, and one tree that size, it takes time to get down. So we're kind of in that phase where we need to attack it. It's going to take some time to get back to that maintenance level. And also, Mother Nature changes it. She sweeps stuff away. You'll be shocked at stuff that moves, and sometimes it moves for the better, and sometimes it moves for the worse. So it's ever changing. But the creek walks this year will be very informative, and like I said, this time next year we'll have some very, very crucial data.
Yeah, I just wanted to commend you on the planning that went into all of this, because getting a good plan is critical and probably harder than the actual work. To figure out and see the big picture and then whittle it down and create the action items. That's not an easy task for something coming at it like you did many years after kind of, I don't want to say non-action, but, less action, right? So I think what you've done here, it's obviously, it's probably going to change. You're going to tweak it along the way, but it seems like it's a really great start to kind of get your hands on the project or handle on the project.
Thank you.
I wanted to commend you on the team building. I thought that was very fascinating, very interesting, great way to get everybody to come together. The happier your team is, the more they're going to want to go out there and work. And that open space manual, I think, is going to be fantastic. A couple things. Does it make a difference, what you were talking about earlier, that so far we haven't had as much rain? So are you able to get ahead a little bit more on some of the, no?
Not really, because we have a set time period. April 1st to October 15th, that's our time period. We can do an emergency entrance, but emergency has to be an emergency. So we're kind of trapped by time. The one thing we're looking to, if we have success this year, you can work up on the banks. You just can't be in the can't be in the wet area. So there's some things we could do invasive species-wise to expand, but we're going to try and make some headway with the blocks first. I can't remember.
Rotations.
Yeah. So.
I know we've talked about the goats, and yes, we all love the goats, but I'm curious about the beavers. So that was a big influx, a big change in the numbers. I was just curious if there is any reason why, and then what do you do with the beavers?
Change in the
Like,
numbers.
where do they take them when, yeah, that was a big jump in numbers. Are they just coming back, are they making friends and?
So when we're given a depredation permit, we remove the beavers. They're just removed. It's been a challenge because the policy that was put in place that Jana referred to is, it's really worth a read. You read it. The first sentence tells a lot about it, about their important environmental engineers to the system, and maybe in nature they are, which is tough because we're nature, but we are in residential areas that they can cause, and they do cause, threats to our assets and to the homeowners' assets. So we get caught. Now there's a law, because when they first said, they said, no, we're going to need 20 beavers and that's it. And we had over 100 beavers we needed to get rid of. So it's very tough to go that. But Janet did great in bringing CDFW out and having that meeting, kind of showing what we're doing. So finding that balance between the state, and they understood when they got here. I believe the lady came out here, she was like, I'm a bear expert, I don't know anything about beavers, and I don't know who wrote this policy, but, but it does make it a challenge. It's similar to the goats, the challenge that we think, there's a law that California has passed dealing with goats, that the cost for goats may triple here soon. So we don't know, but that's why immediately Jen and I sat down, we're like, okay, let's look at how can we, if that happens, what can we do? So let's come up with a rotation. Let's do a bi-yearly, where every other year you go. Maybe the other year we bring a tractor in there and mow it down, because if the cost even double, we wouldn't be able to do it anymore. So there's laws that come in place that really affect what we do.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
I'm very familiar with the CDFW permits and the date of October 15th. I'm just going to cite an example, because sometimes I found CDFW could be flexible if you need them to be. If a tree fell in a floodway and, at sometime after the 15th of October, and that would create, a backwater, which, may cause some property damage. Do you find them a little flexible in that regard?
They've been okay. Jen actually has a relationship with one of the people, Patrick, that she knew from past employment. So he's been okay with us to be flexible. But we have the emergency. We just have to ask for an emergency, and they'll usually grant it. It's not a big deal. But the question becomes is where do you draw the line? Because there's one tree. Now, if it's a huge tree and it's going to be a huge problem, yes. But when we get 10 of 72, how do I pick which one of the 62 am I going to ask for permission to go remove? Am I going to ask permission for one, or do I keep pushing until they tell me to stop? So it's a balance that we have to find, and I want to keep that relationship good. So when then I do need something, that
As I cited, that's when you would need it.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
But one thing I want to commend both of you on is the organization. You have a game plan. I don't think we've had that before. And then with regard to what open space looked like beforehand, Tara will tell you, I know what it looked like beforehand. As I was part of the team that dedicated Miners Ravine and False Ravine. So if you ever have any questions on history of it, feel free to call. And then what's the status of the bike trail from Sunrise to Rocky Ridge? Is that still in play?
Nice. To Rocky Ridge. Oh, yeah. So yeah, that's coming soon. They're working on it right now. We were actually just out there looking at the impact of. There was concern about erosion, so we wanted to know if the bike trail could possibly create more because of the runoff and such. We met Eric and I met Brian Walker out there this morning and had that discussion. So that is in full swing.
Is it basically going to be along that sewer line road?
Mm-hmm.
Is that where it's going to be?
It's the old access road. Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I think I might just be unfamiliar with like the nomenclature, but could you explain like the significance behind like the trailibration?
Trailibration was something that my boss, Eric Dexter, helped with in coordination with recreation. It was just an event created. Trailibration was trying to get people out onto the trails. So what we did was we created this little stamps, and they were embossers, and we put them at locations and then gave the GPS coordinates and a map. And then we gave out free, basically maps and little punch cards at the library. You could download your own, and people would go. They'd stamp out at a thing. If you got 3 of them, you got a reward. They had what was the ending event called?
The community picnic.
The community picnic. We had a booth there, and if you came with the thing, you got a little prize for going to the trail. So it was highly successful. We had way more participation. Creating a completely new event was something that was a big ordeal for Eric to take on with Kathleen Beatty as well. So it was huge. It never existed before, and it was successful. So we're excited to do it next year. We did learn a few things. We kind of knew that putting stuff like that out there on the trails could get damaged and stolen. A lot of that did happen, but overall it was very successful.
So is it like intended to encourage like use on the trails?
Yeah, just bring awareness to the trails. We have a lot of trails out there, and a lot of people aren't aware of where they're all at. Because when you go to the city and you look at the bike trail system, it's actually the map I had in there. It's a little confusing because it looks like that shows all the streets and everything. So a lot of people don't know about the bike trails that go through our natural areas. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Okay, do we have anybody in the public viewing audience that would like to add anything? Yeah, come on up. Would you mind stating your name for the record?
Absolutely. John Justin, and I'm with the Troop 11. Thanks for the presentation. That's awesome. The only question I had is, are you working with any particular organizations on cleanup of the watershed and creeks? I know like Placer County has some. When you get to Lincoln, they have like cleanup days and that sort of thing. We work with the Roseville Urban Forest Foundation on planting trees, but Troop 11, as well as many other troops in the city and many other youth organizations, including youth organizations that we work with at West Park High School, and just there's so many that would probably be willing to help if that's something that you would be interested in. But I just didn't know if you had a particular organization that was organizing that, because it's very important just in terms of doing it the way you want to do it versus just having organizations show up, because now you're managing them.
Mm-hmm. We've had a couple. We tried with what was the exact title over there, Placer County. We've tried a couple things. Nothing that's come to fruition yet, because we had a couple fall throughs with designing some certain areas. There's 2 areas that I would like to expand in that I'm not very familiar with. One is grants. and the other one is more volunteer projects and people that's one area, it's only been in here, it's been about 2 years. We haven't had time to like dedicate to that, but that's definitely one of those areas we would like to focus on.
And Roseville Environmental Utilities does, I don't know if it's 3 or 4 creek cleanup events where they have volunteer groups come. And so our team supplies the side-by-side to pick up the trash bags as they do that. So the environmental utilities coordinates those events. I think, like I say, I think there's 3 or 4 a year. They provide gloves and bags for all the volunteers, and they, sweep a certain area of creek, and then we pick up the trash. So those events have been happening for years now, I think.
Okay, I'll reach out to them. I just hadn't seen anything on our creeks or our watersheds just for cleanup. I mean, I see it on the Roseville Urban Forest Foundation on their side of the plantings and such.
We could definitely
so.
talk after this. You don't have to reach out to them. If you'd like to set something up, we can get together. We're open to it. I haven't got to that part yet. Those
I understand.
Those 2 things that I'm really trying to get there, but I'm just trying to focus on getting us launched.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, those are definitely in front of mine, but.
Awesome. Well, thanks again.
Let's
Appreciate
do
it.
Anyone else? Okay, public comment was now closed. Next, we have item 6.4, what's happening in park development update by Tara G.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here today to talk about what's happening in park development. It's been quite a few months, and so I'm excited to be able to tell you about what's going on. Currently under construction, we've got several things. As you know, the Roseville Soccer Complex is under construction. Many of you were there at the groundbreaking in June, and it continues to progress. As well as the groundbreaking, well, we broke ground, we didn't have a ceremony, for the Denio Family Park. That's the park off of Fitiment Road, which has the beautiful preserves and is planned to include a disc golf course. So it'll be the city's first disc golf course, and we're excited to be able to do that. And this picture here is a picture of that beautiful property. It's 90-plus acres, and in the middle of it has preserve. So, and it's one of our very few properties where we actually have topographic, ups and downs, which makes it a good selection for a disc golf course. We are also continuing work on Campus Oaks Park, which is a developer-built project, as well as having broken ground on Solar Park, which is next to Westbrook Elementary, which some people have seen that the sod has gone in, so we're going to literally watch the grass grow at this point. And Riego Creek is also another park that's under construction. It's located next to Riego Creek Elementary School. Currently, we're heavy into public outreach in the design phase of many parks throughout the city. John Bayuk Park, you've heard of that one, is located next to Rex Fortune Elementary School. We are finishing up the construction documents and hope to break ground in the late spring of 2024. We've had several meetings where we've met with residents, in particular in October regarding the improvements at Crimson Ridge Park, one that was built by the developer that needs some additional improvements. So we'll be completing the construction documents for that. And our hope is to break ground in the spring of '24 to add those additional improvements, one of which is turf. Natural grass, which is a much desired amenity for that. We've had our first public workshop for Creekview C63 in September, and where we outlined the planning process. So what we've done, COVID has changed the way that we've approached our public workshops. So we have several of them, as many of you know, and our first public workshops are virtual so that we can offer a time that's convenient for people. We can also record it as well. And what we do is record it, we post it on our website, as well as the meeting notes, so that those who really want to understand the park planning process and understand the feedback that's being received, that they can go, if they miss it, they have another commitment, they can go online and either view the video or read the meeting minutes. So we've had that for C63 in Creekview, and just last week we had another one for KT52, which is in Sierra Vista. KT52 is a 7.5 acre site that is going to be next to a future elementary school. This will be the first park that we've built next to a school that we beat the school to the construction, which will be really nice to be able to do that. And this week, we will be meeting, not this week, next week, we will be meeting with, going back to Creekview, with the Creekview residents to present a high-level sketch and get their feedback on that. Last Thursday was the meeting for KT52, so if you were going to go and look at the video, it's not up yet. So we're working on that. And then this week, later, I had Pistachio Regional Park. On Thursday, we have a virtual public workshop to update the master plan for that. There's been several changes since we had approved the master plan. So it's also an opportunity for us to add some additional elements, like a skate track, potentially, a BMX track, potentially, and a spray grounds for Pistachio, as well as talk about what the future might look like for a mega community center / library / pool. So there's lots of ideas that we're going to be presenting on Thursday. And if you're interested in listening in, please let us know. We can get you the link for that. It is an RSVP. So that we're not publishing out the link to potential hackers, but if you do want to, let us know. We'll get you the secret code. All right, so coming up in 2024 projects, there's more outreach that needs to occur, and I know that these are all just different numbers and different parcels, but basically we've got the bandwidth to do a handful at a time. So in early 2024, these are the 4 sites that we're looking at having additional public outreach. As you can see, 3 of them are in Sierra Vista, and 1 of them is the last park over at Campus Oaks. As you know, we're working on the Campus Oaks Park and Crimson Ridge, so this CO61 will be the 3rd park in that Campus Oaks area. So one of the things that we're asked about all the time is how do we determine priorities in growing areas? So here's a map of Sierra Vista, and Sierra Vista is made up of Sierra Vista proper and Westbrook. So Westbrook is on the top. It's a little L shape there. Now, you may recall that in order to build a park, we rely on the number of building permits being pulled, since this is how we collect the funds to build the park. If there are not enough homes being built, that means there's not enough funds to build the park, as well as not enough people paying into a community facilities district for service. That's how parks are paid for maintenance. So we have to find that balance. So we look at absorption, which means how many people are living in a given area, and we try to do it, if the city's going to build it, at least at 50%, maybe 60% or more. That ensures that we have funding for development, funding for maintenance, and it decreases our exposure to liability. The last thing we want to do is have a park out in the middle of nowhere, and it's no eyes on it, and it just makes it more vulnerable to the behaviors that we want to discourage. So this is a map of the Sierra Vista area, as I mentioned, which is located west of Fitiment and immediately south of the West Roseville area. And this map comes out every month by our planning department, and it shows what is being built and where. So as an example, the green are what we call final building permits. That means people are living there or about to be living there. The yellow indicates what we call paper lots, and that means that the building permit's approved and that the homes have not quite been built yet, but they're in the queue to be built. And the uncolored lots indicate areas approved at a high level, but not have pulled building permits yet. There's one exception to the absorption rule, if you will, that I talked about, and that is if a developer chooses to build the park themselves. If they do, the biggest incentive for them to build the park is to have it there to sell homes. And there's, on occasion, developers who choose to do that. Most don't, but it does help with the home sales. So this is an overlay of the same map, and it shows how we're spreading out where all these parks are going to be built in the Sierra Vista area. So that white is where John Bayou Park is. And again, Rex Fortune Elementary School is already built and open. They just opened last August. The black indicates where public outreach is occurring or being scheduled. And the purple circles are those four or five parks that I mentioned that we'll be looking at in the spring. But wait, there's more. I mentioned Creekview, which is that little oval on the left side of the screen, as well as Campus Oaks. So you can see in those areas, the Creekview site will be the first park in the Creekview area. It's south of the creek, and you can see a lot of green around that location, which is interesting because we had looked at the school park site, which is on the north side of the creek on that main road up, and that's beginning to build out. So we were trying to time it to build this park at the same time the school is, but luckily the school district is postponing their construction of that site, so it allowed us to be able to focus on the smaller park. Campus Oaks, you can see where Crimson Ridge Park is and where Campus Oaks Park is. So CO 61 is literally across the street from Crimson Ridge Park. One of the things that I have not mentioned, we can have that for another meeting, is all of the major rehabilitation projects that are also in the queue. So just to mention, Mighty Skate Track is going to be closed this winter to receive some new improvements, long-awaited improvements. It's not going to be, because we're limited in size, it's not going to be this destination level, but it is in great need of improvements and new elements. So we're very, very, very excited to be able to make that happen. In the works as well is Weber Park. Weber Park, we're hoping to be able to break ground in the spring of '24. And Johnson Pool is slated to receive some major rehabilitation projects in it, not only in the building, but on the pool deck as well as the pool shell. What that means, or may mean, is because it's a big project that the swim lessons and the opening the pool will be affected by that, because we really need a good chunk of time to be able to make those improvements. So we're working on a plan with our programming team to be able to allow for the maximum amount of swim lessons and summer water events, minus Johnson Pool for a few months in the summertime. And then last but not least is Saugstad Park. We're working on that. Saugstad Park, I don't know if you know, but it's built on a landfill as well as well within a floodplain. So we've got two different regulations and entities overseeing what we do, and we're making progress. And I'm really happy to say that we are making progress. Will we break ground next spring? No. But my hope is by the spring of '25, we'll be able to do that. So with that, this concludes my presentation. As a reminder, this is an information item and no action is being sought at this time. But with that, I am ready to answer any questions you may have.
That was great. Anyone on the, okay.
On Sogstad, remind me, that was one that we were going after a grant on, and I think I've asked this before, and sorry, I have forgotten the answer. Did we get funding for that?
We did not.
We did not, okay.
No. We thought it was a great project to apply for, grant-wise, but we do have a little bit of a challenge with grants, state grants. The focus is about underserved, and not much of Roseville is considered in that demographic.
Right.
I know the phase one of the courts at Gibson is hopefully soon with the pickleball. What the tennis courts and the basketball courts, are there timing on the additional phases?
We have not. So pickleball, everybody asks every day, so. Pickleball, we're looking at mid-January for the fences, the construction fences to come down. So far as identification of the next phases, yes, it's the courts at Gibson Park where tennis and basketball are also part of that. We have not identified the next phase, which is the priority, nor have we identified the funding that go along with that.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Just a comment. I just want to comment on the sculpture at Veterans Park that was dedicated. It was subsequent to our last meeting. I was in attendance for that. It was nicely done, beautifully done.
Thank you. It's exciting to be able to put art in our parks, as well as, an attraction and an iconic one as well. Artists did a great job.
Anyone else? No? Okay, on that note, I'll open the floor up to public comment. Okay, seeing that there is none, we will close public comment and move on to item number 6.5, Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Year in Review presentation by Jill Geller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am Jill Geller, your Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Director. And if you've been on the commission for a few years, you know it's December, and therefore you're going to hear about the year in review for 2023. So it's my pleasure to share this with you tonight. PRL had a very busy and successful 2023. Certainly, we continued the work we do every day, which is to provide thousands of recreation programs and events. We managed and maintained 84 parks, more than 300 acres of streetscapes, approximately 4,000 acres of open space, 35-plus miles of trails, as you heard about. We operated 21 adventure club sites, 2 recreation facilities, 3 pools, 2 golf courses, the Maidu Museum, and 3 libraries. And on top of that, we did a lot of new and exciting things that I'm going to share with you tonight. So as I mentioned, we offered some new and different programs and events this year, including a successful sold-out Dinner on the Bridge, which kicked off our Wind Down Wednesday series, and it was very popular. Also, to better serve our residents, we offered Sensory Santas and Bunnies and Baskets events, which provided an environment that was specifically tailored to those with sensory needs. And we've increased our 50 and Better program offerings to better serve our older adults. And you're going to see a lot of numbers up here tonight, but I wanted to let you know that these programs and events saw more than 500,000 participations over this year. On the recreation facilities front, we reintroduced the Roseville Sports Center as the Mahaney Fitness Center at the beginning of the year, if you'll recall that. We also offered new membership options, and with this new name, we've just seen our membership at that facility grow exponentially. As Tara mentioned, we also opened the Roseville Aquatics Complex with the new slide and spray ground this year, both of which were under construction last year. And we closed Mike Shelito Pool for the summer as we replastered both pools. So those pools have been drastically improved as well. And even though the pools were closed in the summer months, we were able to fully serve our residents by increasing our offerings at the Rack and Johnson Pool. And we actually taught more swim lessons and had more people for open swim this summer than we did last, just with the expanded offerings that we made available. Our recreation facilities saw more than 600,000 visitations this year. Our Adventure Club sites now total 21, with the addition of new facilities at Westbrook Elementary and Rex Fortune Elementary. And Rex Fortune is our first partnership with the Center School District, so we're very pleased about that. To talk a little bit about Coyote Ridge Adventure Club, we had a water leak there earlier this year that forced the closure of that facility and forced the renovation of the building as well. But the program opened this school year with a completely renovated facility. I do have to give a shout out to our parks maintenance staff. We had worked with contractors to get some quotes for renovating the building, and our parks maintenance staff said, you know, with some reprioritization and some increased workloads here and there, we think we can do this project ourselves, and it's saved us more than $150,000 by having our park staff do it in-house. So thank you to them, and our adventure clubs and preschool program participations were also more than 500,000. Golf remains very popular, with approximately 75,000 rounds being played at our 2 courses this year. We've enlisted a consultant to develop a bunker renovation plan so that we'll be seeing some improvements at Wood Creek in the coming year. And we find that many people enjoy coming to the golf courses for more than just golf. Maybe many of you have attended meetings there, or luncheons, or people have wedding receptions and parties, which resulted in more than 300,000 visitations to our golf courses this year. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but thank you for joining us as we dedicated 3 new parks this year: Four Corners Park, Audrey Husking Park, and Apollo Dog Park. Each one was very well attended, and we were very pleased to open those parks to the public. You also participated in the dedication of our new popular destination playground at Royer Park. Still love this playground, and it continues to be a hit and really has reactivated this area of Royer Park. Thank you for mentioning it, Nick. We were happy to dedicate Remembrance, which is the new public art sculpture at Veterans Memorial Park North. We did this on Veterans Day, and what a lovely event it was. We do look forward to introducing more public art in our parks in the future. Lots of improvements were made in our parks this year, including playground replacements at Lockridge, Irvin, and Blue Oaks parks. And we've installed a lot of new benches, picnic tables, and signage at several parks, including Crestmont Park. And I just wanted to mention Crestmont because in addition to the work that staff did at that park, replacing the benches and picnic tables and trying to refresh that park, the Crestmont Neighborhood Association was very active in having a volunteer day there. And so plantings, new bark, and things have really refreshed the look of Crestmont Park. And we had several tree planting events in cooperation with our great partner, the Roseville Urban Forest Foundation. Lots of new parks in the work. I'm not going to go into these because Tara already mentioned those, but really excited about our first pickleball complex at the courts at Gibson Park and our first disc golf course at Denio Family Parks. We've just got a lot of firsts happening in the city right now, which is very exciting. And again, in the coming year, we'll begin improvements at Weber Park, and you'll see a lot of coming soons that Tara talked about on her presentation as well. There they are. So I'm not going to go into those because Tara talked about those. As well as the next slide shows outreach at our parks that Tara covered as well. So that's all, again, things that are happening this year. She also mentioned all the outreach that we'll be doing in 2024 for new parks. But our 84 parks welcomed approximately 3.5 million visitors in 2023. We did break ground on the soccer complex in June, and construction's underway. We look forward to opening in late 2025. We've developed a pro forma. We're working on our maintenance plans, our business and operations plans, and we've been meeting with potential complex sponsors. So far things are going exactly as we had hoped they would for the soccer complex. And PRL's marketing and communications team was once again recognized with several awards from our state association. CPRS is the California Park and Recreation Society. We received an Excellence Award for the What's Happening in PRL video series. Our gold medal video was recognized by the Public Relations Society of America. And the City County Communications and Marketing Association, which is also known as 3CMA, recognized PRL for the Loving the Library photo that you see on this slide. So we have a lot to be proud of this year. It's easy to forget that we were once again chosen as one of 4 finalists for the National Gold Medal. This year we moved up to Class 2, which was for communities with populations from 150,000 to 400,000. And while we didn't bring home the award, I'm sorry about that, we'll keep trying. But you can see on this slide the staff who proudly accepted the finalist plaque at the National Recreation and Parks Conference in Dallas. And as always, these recognitions are only due to our hardworking staff, our supportive commission, thank you so much, our council, and our engaged residents who just love our parks facilities and programs. You do help us achieve our mission of enhancing lives and the community by providing exceptional experiences. So in closing, once again, please accept my sincere thanks to you, commissioners, on behalf of our entire PRL team for your continued support. And this continues my presentation, wrapping up what we did this year, and we're ready to stand for any questions you might have.
I just wanted to commend you and the entirety of the PRL staff for all the successes we've had this year. And even though I won't be on the commission next year, I'm still excited to see how you'll continue serving the community as you've done this year.
Thank you, Omri, and we'll expect to see you at some of our events still next year, too.
On the monthly report, I see the field rentals looks like they're a 10x multiplier from the previous year. What's behind, is that accurate, and what's behind that?
It is. We just started counting them in a different method this year. Last year, they were looking more at the rental numbers, and this year we're counting the people that are actually involved in the rentals. So yes, that number does look different. On next year's report, you'll see more comparable numbers.
Yeah, just a jump from 800 to 9,000 was significant.
Yeah.
Correspondingly, you have a big jump on the library programs. Is that a similar change in terms of how you counted? It went from 17.5 to 49?
I'm going to say that we really are reaching a lot more people with our library programs and outreach as well. We started doing story times at the fountains this year, and we have had thousands of people participate in that program. So I do think that we've just upped our library programming as well as our outreach.
Yeah, and I just wanted to thank you guys for kicking off December in such a super strong way. Like I said to Jill, every time I think that Parks and Rec can't do anything better, it goes ahead and trumps itself. The additions this year were the fireworks and I'm not going to ruin the surprises for next year, but, and we had the singer from The Voice from Roseville who opened up the tree lighting ceremonies. And thank you guys for a fantastic year. And like you said, can't wait to see what next year brings.
Just a question. If you looked at all the numbers, they're all more than, they're increased. The only question I have is with regard to golf rounds. And, 2022 is a higher number than 2023. Is that skewed because of COVID?
I think so. I mean, we really saw some big increases in golf in 2021 and 22. We are still not down to the level of rounds that we were pre-COVID, but they have come down a bit from immediately post-COVID.
Okay, thank you.
People are having to go back into the office more.
Too bad.
But as we found, people are going to the golf courses for a lot more reasons than just golf. But we do want them to golf.
Green fees.
Anybody else? Okay, I'll open it to public comment. Yes, come on up and just state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Melanie Bellinger. I saw on Tara's presentation the Pistachio Regional Park, and then on your presentation, Jill, it said Pistachio Master Plan. Does that encompass all the lettered numbered parks, or is Pistachio Regional actually a site in and of itself?
It is a site in and of itself.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to close public comment. And last agenda item of the night, before adjournment is Board Member Commissioner Staff Report, also by Jill Geller. Anything else?
I don't have a lot to add tonight because you've heard a lot from us. Just again, thank you to all of you for your support this year. Wishing you a very happy holiday and a happy new year.
Thank you. And anybody else? Yep.
I'll just say thank you for the holiday treats. I had made Matt put his under the table because he was going to try to crack open the crackers during the meeting and crunch into the microphone. So, so you're welcome, everybody.
I have a feeling all of the kids are going to be rating it tonight when we get home. Okay, so anybody else have anything else to add before we call it our last 2023 meeting? All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Please don't. Okay, thank you. Happy holidays, everybody.
Leave him now.